Hello and welcome to another free code session. My name is Jason Bach, and I was going to do this yesterday, but I was just fighting a headache all day and I really couldn't get rid of it. And, this morning I'm just feeling just stressed, some things with the family. Our cats are having problems keeping food down, at least one of them, maybe two, and isn't seeming himself right now. One of them isn't. He's sleeping under the bed, though they ate a different kind of cat food this morning, so they're definitely hungry. And he's kept it down now for about 2-3 hours, so I don't know. We'll see. We have a deck in the backyard that, long story short, when they put the deck in, they didn't do the right kind of flashing, and eventually we started getting water coming through one of our windows. So we had another person come over that we trust. They fixed it. Unfortunately, the siding, it was hard, I think, for them to get it under, and now it's slipped out a little bit, and we can't get it under. So there's a piece just kind of hanging there, and we called them and see if they were actually texting us to say, hey, was there any damage? They did all the downstairs here. They actually did our roof 10 years ago because we had an issue with our roof when it was originally put in. They did this kind of what they called not biodegradable, but it was environment friendly. Well, it started going a lot faster than it should have, and there were lawsuits that were going against the company that did it, and they ended up completely redoing our roof. So we trust them. And it's funny because once you find somebody like in construction that you trust, you want to keep using them because you know that they're going to do a good job. And these guys we know will do a good job. But anyway, they texted my wife because we had storms on Wednesday, and they texted her Thursday and said, hey, we're just wondering if you have any damage or, if there's anything, reach out to us. And it's funny because we've heard in our neighborhood, as probably other people do, that when you get a big storm coming through, you get people that kind of do storm chasing in a bad way afterwards. They'll come and basically solicit everybody's house and try to make a deal and, oh, you need your whole roof redone now and stuff. But in any event, I think I'm feeling a little stressed just because of these things that are going on. They're little things, some of, maybe a little bit bigger things, but yeah. And then I think of people in other parts of the world that have it orders of magnitude worse than I ever do. I have a home over my head and cars and a job, and I sometimes feel like, well, why should I feel stressed? I have nothing to feel stressed about, really. I mean, there are people that don't have for their entire family, even don't have a roof over their head. They don't have a country to live in. It's just, that's the mentality of my mind going through. And rather, I just have to say, look, you're feeling this way because you're feeling this way. And better to acknowledge it than let it kind of eat you a little bit. So in any event, that was on a personal note. But yeah, I was going to come back to this yesterday, but I just wasn't feeling up to it. And it was interesting because when I was driving the self-defense, or when I was coming back, I started realizing I have a problem. So the problem that I have is if I come to property symbol signature, is I realized I can't do this because for a property, especially on the setter, this means now I have to pass in a tuple of bool and this, and tuples I think are value types. So then I'd have to change it to being a ref property, but that's not necessarily the right thing to do. In fact, it isn't the right thing to do. So for the getter, probably, but not on the setter. It would be, you wouldn't be able to get was it called back out. At least I'm almost positive. Hold on. Let me actually, you know what? We can do it in real time, because I believe if I go to Sharp Lab and I say, if I say something like public bool string get stuff, and then I say true JSON, I don't know, something like that. What does that actually look like in IL? Oh, I'm being stupid. That's what I want. So yeah, it's a value type. It's a value tuple. So it would feel weird if what I was doing was somehow forcing this pattern all over the place. And I think the right thing to do is just to say, you know what? I'm going to go back to the methods and make them just return whatever it was that they were returning. That means get rid of the unit thing. If it wasn't called, just say return default. That's the best you can do. If the method doesn't return anything, you don't return anything. And it's a little unfortunate because you can't tell in some cases whether it was really called or not. I thought of, maybe in the future what I could do is use something like an async local, which allows you to reach up into an async local context and find out was the last thing, what was the last thing in this async local context, was it called or not? That feels maybe like an idea, but that doesn't feel like a very good idea either. That feels kind of brittle, and only in the case where you do care would you actually look and see. Maybe, but the problem is what happens if you call something and then the thread context switches or something, and then somebody else sets that, But the async local would be with your current flow. It wouldn't be with something interfering. So maybe that's possible. I don't know. I think that's a separate thing that I would want to address, and maybe just put it in as an issue once I get this done and say, maybe I do that and maybe not. But I want to get the properties done. So unfortunately, this is going to have to be, the parameter type is just going to be this. Okay. I say unfortunately like it's a bad thing, but there we go. So now the parameter type should just be public static string name or whatever it is. That makes sense. Okay. So we've got that. We also want in the method symbol signature, we're going to have to do the same thing. We don't care if it returns void, we're just going to say void. If it doesn't, then we're going to return this. Okay. Now this is going to eventually trickle its way out in a lot of things with the methods, but we'll come back to that eventually. Okay. So let's get back to the properties. We have static cast builder, methods builder. We should have properties builder. Yes, we do. Okay. And so this was the thing that was starting to break because we hadn't done everything on it just yet. Whoa. I forget sometimes on my keyboard I got to switch so that the function keys, wait, we want that to be change of properties. And then this would be, come on, you can, there. So what are we doing here? Why am I here? What is the purpose of my life? So this is public static class. We need the type. This is the key type. There we go. Okay, so that gets us the crud. Oh, I just realized something. If the methods generate one here too, based on a property like a string, we would have two. But we can get around this by just calling it a partial. And so here then in the method builder, we'd also have to say partial. And so these will just all get combined up together when we're done, I believe. And I think the partial goes there. Like if I say public static partial class X, that's correct, except you don't like it. Oh, now you're okay. It just took you like 20 seconds to figure that out. Right, so that's public static. Yeah, okay. So we're good there. And now we can put in every property. So this is the signature. What about generic parameter names? I don't know. We'll get there eventually. So now what is it that we actually want to generate with a property? Well, if I go to my generator tests, if I look what I'm actually generating, we would have static class here. We'd have public static. Eventually, we're just going to have public static string name. And now we need a get and a set. But the thing we need to do is we need to call verify. And then we need to say, is it assignable to? And then we need to do a type of that get property. And then we'd have to say get, like get method. And then from that point on, all of this should probably be the same because you're actually like invoking the property. In the case of a getter, you would always return, except again, if it's an indexer, you actually have to pass in the, let's look at something that doesn't have these name changes. That's a little bit easier to look at. Yeah, you'd have to pass in the indexer things there and then make sure you return it. And then, yeah, these units have to all go. So I believe it is just like, if I come back here, if I say like, var property is equal to type of, let's just public. Type of C, get property. Nope, nope. Where'd you go? Property. And then here we need to say we want it to be name. Okay. And yes, we want to bind things. So we would say something like this. Except you don't know what that is. I wish Visual Studio had something like this. I mean, there is a C# immediate window. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool if they had something like this. Okay, and then here we would need to say if we had, is there binding flags? There is one down here that is there is one that return type, yeah, if you want indexers. It looks like you have to use this big one down here unless there's one that exists that I don't know about. I'd have to go look that up like now because I need to actually do that. But we would get the method. So we just see a name here and then we could say get method. And then that, because we would know already that it had a getter and we could say that's fine. Okay, so we need to say if it's a getter, if it has a getter, then we do this. And then if it's a setter, then we would do this. So we would say, let's do a build setter and a build getter. Private static, build getter. I don't know what that's, it's going to be a void. And we'll figure out what goes in there in just a second. And then build setter. So if, come on, signature property I just did this. This was on the symbol signature. Yeah, you have to say if okay. Get method is not null. Then we're going to call static cast properties builder, build getter, And we'll figure out what we pass them there. And then we need to do the same thing for the setter. Okay, so then we can pull all this out. Well, for how far? I think like that, because we're going to say public static partial class. Oh, yeah, we need to actually, hold on. Let's put this in the getter. So what we're going to need here is some way to say, like here we put in the signature of the method, the actual signature. What we need to do outside of this is actually say, put the signature of the property here. Oh, yes. Okay, so that does that. But then here we need to actually emit the property. And we know we're going to have at least a getter and or a setter. So we could say writer.writeLine here, signature, and that's the signature. Okay. And then we're going to indent, and then we're going to outdent. There. And now we say if we do a getter and a setter. Okay. Now we need to pass in here a property symbol signature. And we need to right, that's just a we know it's a get method. Okay. And actually, let's capture that up here. Our get method is equal to that. We know that's true. Okay. So then we can just say this. We can say that. A result variable. If it's a get, we would definitely have a. We don't have to do this because we know we're in a getter. Okay. And now this is all doing the reflection code for figuring out which property to call. So if I say here, if we actually have an indexer here, then we would say, I think in this case, do that. The parameter names, you actually have parameters. We do this again. Invocation result code. We know we're going to be returning something for our result variable. Oh, because we need a result. So we are definitely going to be doing this. We don't need to do any kind of ternary switch. Okay. We know we're going to be returning something. So we don't need to do this. But we're not doing this. And then we don't do any of this. Okay. So then in this case, we're just going to do return default. And we, again, don't need to worry about a void case. So here, instead of signature, what we would probably say here is just get. Yeah, let's get this aligned. There we go. Now it's looking a little weird. So now we want to say get property. Except here, we want to say signature property name. Parameter types could just be that. I don't know if that's actually going to work though. And once we have the target method, that's good. Invocation result code is going to be your result value there. We could actually, well, the thing I was like, we could do a return on the invocation, but it might be easier to read it to cast it. So if we do this, we do that. Otherwise, we just return the default value. And of course, we need the writer to actually come in here. What do we usually pass in for? We always do indented text writer first. Indented text writer. So here we need writer signature. Okay, and probably the same thing with the setter. Okay. So now we do all this, except completely not the same thing. No, I didn't paste that right. There, okay. So now we're going to say we need the set method. And let's change this to being set. There is no invocation result code in this case. We just call it. And there is no return for no invocation. So none of these actually matter. This is now a set. Yeah, there's one trick to this though. Because you're always going to have for the setter at least one parameter. And that's the value. That actually always works. Yeah, we don't need to do this type empty checks. You're always, when you're doing a setter, you're passing in at least one. So we can just say it's going to be new that and get rid of the ternary here. If that made sense. Same thing here. We don't need to check the length. We can just say it's going to be that. So let's be a little bit consistent here. So there is no invocation result code. Always say target method variable. That's from the mapping. And so we invoke in parameter names and we don't do anything. And we don't do anything here either. And we're done. Simple as pie. Or as cake. Or whatever the phrase is. How many errors do we have? What's this from? Oh, this is to get properties. If, oh, we should have done that, property. We would just want to say the property type. Oh, come on. What's the... proper... Oh, did I... No, properties... It's a property symbol. Oh. Yes. This is wrong. This actually has to be a type symbol. Oops. And then this is a property symbol syntax. This is going to screw up some other dictionary references, but that's okay. Okay, and now here, where we said, yeah, so we need a to-do here. Okay, properties to generate. Also has to be an I-type symbol. Okay. And then that changes this to being that. And then that goes away. So here we need to say for our current member count is equal to the number of methods to generate count. Jesus. You know, this is probably, hold on. Let's do this. except take up. Methods generate, properties generate. Yeah. If what we want to say here is, so we used to have methods here. What we want to do is say, now, if cast to parameter type, get members. What is cast to parameter type? Or do we want symbol? Yes, we want symbol here. We want to get members where any that are both is static and is abstract. If we do not have any of these, then we do this. Else, we'll actually generate stuff. And all your red should go away, right? Right? Yeah, it took you a second. There, I think that's what we want, which is saying if you don't have any members, I wonder if we can also qualify it, like what kind is it? Equals symbol kind method. Yes. So let's do that. We'll put in any where we say the kind is no. The kind is either a method or kind is equal to a symbol kind property. Just to be clear. And it has to be static and it has to be abstract. That's okay. And I'm going to stop here because I probably still have some errors here. Statcast builder. This has to take a I type symbol here. And then properties builder is probably still wrong here. Yes, I type symbol. There. And what's still wrong? There. Now I think this should actually at least build, which is the first step in anything you do in life. Does it build? Never checking code that doesn't build. That's a bad thing. Okay, it's taking you forever, but you did succeed. Okay, so now I have first of all, I know tests are going to break left and right if I do this because we're now not passing over that unit thing. In fact, I can actually get rid of the whole unit builder. I don't need that anymore. The variable name generator we do need. This should break something. Yes, it does. Why are you... We no longer need to do that. Then use parameter option. Yes, I know that. Okay, so if we build again, there we go. Okay, so the next video, I will be undoing some tests and making sure things don't break. It's unfortunate because some of the tests that I've done before, it made some of the tests nicer because I didn't have to have this like property around, but I can change that and just say, hey, return a string. And either it has a value or it's returning default back. Even if it says it's string, if it returns back a null, that means it didn't do anything. And then we can start getting into some property tests. So my guess is 2 or 3 more episodes to get properties and indexers to work, because I probably made some really bad assumptions that I'm going to kick myself when I'm editing these videos and going, oh yeah, you should have needed to do that when you were doing the properties. But that's life. So thank you all for watching. Leave comments and questions below. See you in the next episode.